The humble beginning. In the early 1990s, the world of computing felt like a gated community. If you wanted to run a sophisticated multi-user operating system, you were effectively forced to pay thousands of dollars for proprietary Unix systems. For a student at the University of Helsinki named Linus Torvalds, this was a wall he couldn't climb. Linus was fascinated by how computers worked, but his resources were limited. He spent his time studying the architecture of Minix, a small academic operating system designed for teaching. It was functional, but it was restricted. It couldn't fully tap into the power of the new Intel 386 processor that sat on his desk. Frustrated by the lack of affordable, high-performance software, he made a decision that seemed small at the time. He would simply write his own kernel. He didn't set out to change the internet. He didn't dream of powering the world's financial systems or supercomputers. He just wanted a tool that would allow him to experiment with his hardware. In August of 1991, he sent a short, modest message to an online news group. He told fellow hobbyists that he was working on a free operating system, famously adding that it was just a hobby and won't be big and professional like GNU. That humble post was the spark. By choosing to share his code, he opened a door that would never close again. The power of openness. When Linus released his code, he made a decision that defied the business logic of the era. Instead of locking the software away, he made it public. He invited anyone with an interest to look at it, test it, and improve it. This was the birth of a global, collaborative machine. At the time, major technology companies were guarding their source code as if it were national security. But the Linux project operated on a completely different premise, that many eyes make all bugs shallow. As programmers from around the world downloaded his kernel, they didn't just use it, they started fixing it. They added support for hardware Linus didn't even own. They built drivers and utilities that expanded the system's capabilities in directions he hadn't anticipated. A key turning point came when the project adopted the GNU General Public License. This legal framework ensured that the code would stay free forever. It meant that no single company could take the collective work of thousands of developers and turn it into a closed, proprietary product. This commitment to openness turned a lonely hobby project into a massive, unstoppable movement. It proved that software didn't need a central boardroom to become powerful. It just needed a community, from hobby to backbone. Throughout the 1990s, the internet began its explosive growth, and it needed a foundation. Businesses and early web startups were desperate for an operating system that was stable, secure, and, above all, affordable. Linux was the perfect candidate. Because it was open and customizable, engineers could strip away everything they didn't need and leave only the parts that made their servers run faster. As the decade turned into the new millennium, the hobby had become the backbone of the digital world. It powered the web servers that hosted the rising tide of websites, the supercomputers calculating complex weather patterns, and eventually the very infrastructure of the cloud. The story didn't stop at the server room. In 2008, when Google released Android, it placed the Linux kernel inside the pockets of billions of people. From the smartphone in your hand to the massive data centers processing your search queries, Linux became the invisible engine of modern life. Today, it is the largest collaborative software project in human history, with tens of millions of lines of code contributed by thousands of developers and hundreds of companies. The legacy of collaboration. The success of Linux is not just a story about code, it is a story about the evolution of innovation. It demonstrated that a decentralized, meritocratic model could outperform the most rigid corporate structures. It showed that when you lower the barrier to entry, you invite the best minds on the planet to solve the hardest problems. Linus Torvalds eventually moved to the United States, but his project remained governed by the same principles of transparency and technical rigor that defined those first few weeks in his Helsinki apartment. His role shifted from a lone programmer to a lead maintainer, overseeing a vast network of contributors who continue to refine the kernel to this day. Despite the shift in scale, the core philosophy remains unchanged. Whether it is being used to run a tiny smart sensor or a record-breaking supercomputer, Linux is built on the idea that knowledge should be shared, not hoarded. It has proven that even the most complex systems can be built through trust and collective effort. The student who once thought his project was too small to be significant ended up creating the foundation for almost everything we do online. It is a reminder that the most durable and impactful technologies often start with someone simply trying to solve a problem they have and then deciding to show their work to the world. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for similar ones.